Pretend for a second. I am you. And today, we're going to talk about a very interesting show. What's up, everybody? So, did you take a minute, pretend I was you? So, if you've heard that, then you know what show I'm about to talk about. If you haven't heard that, you're going to understand in a minute what that means. Before I go any further, before you go any further as the viewer, I would hope that you would keep an open mind to this show. The show is extremely progressive. This show touches on a lot of things that if you are not open, if you are bigoted in some way, it's probably going to upset you. You're probably not going to like it. All right? It is a show that really touches on a lot of aspects of society. And I'll get into that as I go, but understand it touches on race, it touches on mental aspects, it touches on sexuality. It is a very different show. And the show that I'm talking about came out in March, April, May-ish, so right in the heart of the pandemic. I was not sure originally if I was going to watch the show. The show was on AMC. It was an anthology series. It was only 10 episodes. And I had watched the trailer going, okay, this has one of two ways it can go. It can either be very true to life, or it can really push into the fantastical. And my gut said it was probably going to be somewhere in the middle, but lean towards more of the real life. And I wasn't sure I was going to take the time and watch this originally, because I'm not a person who likes to watch TV for real life. All right, I'm not a drama person overall. I'm not an ER person. I am not a This Is Us person. For me, when I watch TV, I like to escape the reality. I see more in real life and know more in real life than, and see struggles of people in real life more than a lot of people, just because of my job, where I'm from, how I grew up. And you know, seeing these things happen in real life and still happening today, as we're all very aware, with certain things right now, for me, getting to watch a movie, a show, lets me escape that a little bit. So very rarely do I sit down and watch a drama, a straight up drama of some kind that is more real life. I wanted to give this a try though, because of it having that little bit of mystery to it when you watch the trailer. But also, I was really curious to see how Jason Segel, who created this show, was going to take it, because he based it off of a documentary called The Institute, which it was a documentary made about this institute called the Jujune Institute, that actually happened in San Francisco for real. It was an alternate reality real life game that people got wrapped up into. From what I've read on it, you know, some people got way wrapped up into it, and it blurred those lines of real life and game. I've not had a chance to track down the documentary to watch it yet, but it's on my list of stuff to do. And so Jason Segel bases this entire story slightly on that. It's kind of the starting point for everything. And on top of that, it plays a little bit to the ideas of Wizard of Oz. And if you think about the Wizard of Oz, you know, the Wizard of Oz is telling us this tale of everybody has this fault in them and trying to overcome that. And so the show is called Dispatches from Elsewhere. It was on AMC just this past year. I cannot suggest this show enough to you if you are open. Okay? if you are an open person. Now, there's some things that I feel like in this. I feel like characters are based off of certain things. I I haven't done all this research and like, yes, he absolutely based this character off of this, or he wanted this in it, or whatever. But there's personal thoughts to this. So I opened up this video with saying, pretend you were me. And that's because the first thing we kind of see is this character named Octavio. Octavio represents the Jujune Institute. And before the story actually gets rolling, he's the first voice, the first person we see when the show turns on. And Octavio is just sitting there in a room, and he's staring at the camera. And he says, pretend, or first thing he says is, I'm going to tell you something. And everything I tell you, something in there is going to be a lie. Can you figure out what it is? And he then says, pretend Peter is you. And this reoccurs in a lot of the episodes. We get an episode where he's like, pretend Simone is you. Pretend Fredwin is you. And it's really about trying to pull you into that character. Thinking for a minute, what is that character going through? Is that really pertaining to my life? It's a show that really wraps up so much. I'm going to try not to spoil too much for those of you that might want to watch it, but I do need to touch on some things in this discussion. And first of all, let's just talk about Peter. Peter is kind of the almost everyman feeling when you start the thing is what you're thinking. And that he's this guy that's just doing his job and going through his motions of everyday life because that's what he needs to do. He has this job basically at a place like Spotify or something like that, a streaming music site, and he just goes to work and he taps away on his computer and does his thing. And he lives alone and he wants more, and he's just very depressed, down in the dumps, and they show him walking to work to and from and everything, and he starts seeing these flyers from the Jujune Institute, and they vary in different things: medical studies with can your brainwaves attach to a dolphin, are you lonely, things like that, pull the little tag and give us a call. And that is something Jason pulled directly from this real idea of the Jujune Institute that happened. They had flyers and things that apparently, people pulled, and they would call the number, and it started them playing this game. So he pulls this idea right from that. And this character does that. And this character ends up in a room. Somebody calls him, and they know his name, and he's like, how do you know? They're like, if you want to know more, come here. So it starts us on this quest, if you will, this fantastical quest, this mystery. What is the Jujune Institute? And there's the Elsewhere Society, and the Elsewhere Society is against the Jujunes, and the Jujunes want to, take this knowledge and things and use it to capitalism. And the Elsewhere Society is against that, and let our imaginations be free and be who we are, and creativity for creativity's sake. It is a fascinating mental discussion about the process of creativity, and creativity being something that, what should creativity be for creativity's sake? Should creativity be for monotonizing and making money off of? That's the very first thing that kind of jumps in, and you're like, okay, it's not a show you can watch without thinking. My wife would say that parts of it were boring to her, and that's because she likes to kind of watch TV while doing other stuff. I can get very invested in just watching a show and doing nothing else at the same time. So a lot of these subplots, these underlying things, are just fantastic. Just there's layers upon layers in this show. Now I don't have any proof of this, but Jason Segel's character Peter felt to me like he was a very high functioning autistic person, like an Asperger's almost, where a lot of his actions, a lot of his quirks, the anti-emotion part of it, felt really like that. Just having a little knowledge of how that can be in real life, and I don't have concrete evidence that he based that character on that way. But when looking at some of the other characters and some of their personalities and things they have, it would not surprise me if he pulled in that aspect for this character. I'm not going to go into the whole story. I'm not going to go into everything that necessarily is going on. What I will say is that it really starts to come to that the Jujune Institute and the Elsewhere Society are both searching for this girl named Clara. Clara disappeared. Clara had this idea of divine nonchalance. I can't explain it to you without necessarily ruining some stuff. So watch the show and you'll start to get the understanding of what divine nonchalance is. Even the character's like, what is divine nonchalance? So they kind of explain it. But basically, the Jujune Institute wants Clara to do some things for their company. The Elsewhere Society wants to free Clara. But this girl, this teenage 20-some-year-old girl, is missing. So it becomes this story of which side are you on? Are you going to follow a Jujune, or are you going to follow the Elsewhere Society? And they have these games and things that lead you places to mysteries and puzzles and riddles and things that are trying to lead these characters to Clara, so they can find Clara. And what happens is the Jujune Institute puts groups of people together. And so our four main characters get put together: Peter, Simone, Janice, and Fredwin. I've already touched a little bit on Peter. Let me touch on Simone, because she's our other really big main character. Simone is a character that, if you are not open, okay, if you are not a person that can handle reality, okay, that can handle people being different, it's going to turn you off to the show. Because Simone is a main character. Simone is played by Eva Lindley. And Simone is a trans woman who is learning to be who she is, who feels isolated, who feels judged, who feels like the world is not right for her, that people will always look down on her. And it is absolutely, it really makes you understand as you go through this series where somebody who is struggling through that, where their mindset might be, what they're probably going through for real. We get this part where Peter basically falls for her, and she does not want to let him in, because she's afraid of what society will think and how they'll treat him and her, and she feels like it's not fair for him. It's absolutely powerful, okay, and it is one of those things to understand. Hopefully, if you watch this show, you'll start to understand their struggles. You'll start to realize that how they are a person who has their own things they have to struggle with, and how some people make that harder on them. So I really, 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 really like the character of Simone. Just I'm a very open person to all that kind of stuff, and I I love seeing this on screen. I love seeing and people starting to be able to kind of understand that thought. So Simone, great character. Uh, Great ups and downs, emotional moments with Simone. Simone has a wise ass streak in her at times, which is great. Uh, Eve and Jason work really well together. Um, they really do have this interesting chemistry going on. So, two characters, fantastic. Then let's talk about Janice. Janice is played by Sally Field, who, if you don't know her, I can't believe you don't know her. Now, her character is an older character, and she's going through a different struggle than the rest of our characters. And that is her taking care of her husband, who's basically in a coma, who had a stroke or heart attack. I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it was a stroke that basically put him into a coma. And she's taking care of him, but she talks about him a lot like, they're still talking, they're still having discussions, because she still has discussions with this man, even though he cannot reply back. And it again is a very powerful moment. It's a pretend you are her. What would you do in her situation as you get older? If that happens in your life, can you stick by the person who you've loved all this time? What about when if that person goes? What does that mean about you? So much of your life, man, woman, when we think about it, so much of our life gets wrapped up in the person we love and the person we marry and start this life with. If that person is yanked away from us in some way, how do we react? What is our own internal monologue with that? Have we changed ourselves? Are we not who we thought we were because this person is half of us almost? It's a fascinating. Again, this show is so much about the characters and about putting yourself in their shoes and understanding and trying to understand these struggles that different people go through. Our last main character, if you will, is Fredwin, played by Andre Benjamin of Outkast. He is hyper intelligent, a hyper intelligent black man who's made millions of dollars, but he is extremely paranoid, and he believes in conspiracy. He believes those are out to get him and get others, and we mine data for companies so that they can use it against us. And he's the skeptic of the group. He's the one that feels like, they go into this and you get Jason Segel's character is very, okay, this is something, this is life, this is new to me, this is refreshing, this is different, this is, and he starts to believe, what if Claire is real? What if this is all real and somebody's really kidnapped Claire? And, Simone's character it's part of her journey of just trying to figure out who she is, and she takes this, and, this is also part of that journey for her. And for Janice, it's about trying something new and being on her own, and is she what she used to remember before she met her husband? Now that she's more on her own, with things. But Fredwin, Andre's character, is the skeptic. He's like, this is all a ruse. This is by the government, or this is by a company. We got to follow the money and follow and see who it is. It's made up. It's to mine our data. It's to get us to do this and that and that. So totally different character. But there are people like that in real life. We know that. There are things that I fully believe that in. I'm not a hyper conspiracist with a lot of things, but there are definitely things where I think back and I go, or I think and look at and go, I'm not sure on the surface this is what this is, but deep down it might be something else. But there are people who believe in every last conspiracy, and we know that. So, my thoughts on this then, because it was a show that I wasn't sure and I was afraid was going to go into that route completely. And it kind of did. It really was about the characters. And it was about their journeys and their struggles and their things in life. But each episode you really kind of felt with it. Okay, you really kind of felt and understood why they were, or who they were, or what was going on as the story started to go. Don't let that fool you, in that there is a bigger underlying mystery going on here. There is a deeper story. There is a game being played. There is some stuff going on. Okay? Without spoiling things, I can't go into it much more than that. I can tell you that it progressively builds. You get some very powerful moments. You get some very emotional moments. You get a little twist at the end that then makes you really think and go, okay, so this is what it was really about. This this series also, I feel, was really Jason finding himself on top of what the characters discover about themselves. This was about Jason also starting to understand and look at himself, his shortcomings, and how he's fixed them and how he's changed. I struggle to tell you much more because of certain things that happen in the show. But it's an absolute soul-searching discovery of people and their struggles. I cannot suggest watching Dispatches from Elsewhere any more highly than I am right now. It is a show that does have a slower pace at times, has some very exciting moments, has some very deep moments. It's not a show you can watch in the background because you're going to miss the real impact of the show if you try that. So, to kind of end this up, let me just say, Dispatches from Elsewhere, for me personally, is a probably 4.5 star out of 5 star show. The only reason I don't go a full 5 is that I feel like some of the fantastical could almost have been drawn farther. But at the same time, I understand pulling back on some of it because it's not the focus of it. I don't know that I loved it enough to give it a 5, so that's why I can't quite give it that. But I would not take back watching it for a second. And I enjoyed every second that I watched it. And it was a show that really made me think about things. So that's why I put it at like that 4.5. So I know this was a longer one. Like I said, it was going to be. I was getting a little more in depth with things. Telling you about the characters without spoiling the actual story of things. So let me know what you think. If you've watched the show, please comment down below. If you haven't watched the show, I highly suggest you check it out. I believe you can watch it on AMC's website streaming. It might be on Hulu or some other stuff like that. I don't know. I watched it, like I said, live when it was on AMC. So, like, comment, subscribe, share. Let's discuss this one. You can obviously tell I have a lot to talk about with it. I'm more than willing to talk about things in this vein. So, anyways, this is Justin. And until next time, this is Row 9, and we're signing out.
Row 9.